Angry guy here, and men are hurting women by avoiding them. Guys, if you're enjoying this content, please help get the channel to 100,000 subscribers by subscribing to the channel if you already haven't, liking the video, and turning on notifications to never miss another video ever again. Now let's begin. Men are hurting women by avoiding them. Let's just go ahead and jump right into the video.
Your ideal age range in a guy?
What are the options?
Anything, you pick.
18 to 24.
What is your ideal race in a guy?
Anything.
Minimum height that he can be?
5'10".
The minimum income that a guy should make in a year?
Well, I make nothing.
So more than that?
So it's got to be more than nothing.
Any is okay? You don't really care? Or
Maybe more than nothing.
pick something.
Oh God,
What
like
do you
20.
think? 20K a year is fine?
That's a lot.
Based off of the answers you gave, the probability of you finding your ideal person is 9.8%.
Oh God. So that explains a lot.
I feel kind of sorry for her. I really do. And to be clear, she's still young. She doesn't even know much about the world yet. That's why she has these standards. When she gets a little bit older, she's definitely going to want to say that she wants a man with a lot more money. And then at the same time, you have to be very, very careful because women will play dumb. So, you should always approach everything with a sense of distrust. She could literally just be posing and pretending right here to look like a Nawalt or a person who's not, materialistic, when in reality she's extremely materialistic. So again, you have to, I always say, approach everything like it's a lie and then try to look for the truth in the lies. But the thing is that, let's say she's a decent woman, let's say she's a decent girl. The honest to goodness truth is that it's extremely clear that young men are increasingly not dating women anymore. We can see it in the statistics, where most young men are single today. Why are so many young men single? The reason is simply that one of the reasons most young men are single and most young women are not. Part of the reason they say is because young women have to be dating older men, but we don't know that for a fact. Obviously, a lot of them are dating older men because of the money factor, but it's actually more than that. A lot of young men today have completely checked out of society. They've come to the conclusion that they no longer want to date. They no longer want to marry. They no longer see a future with modern women. It's the truth. We are literally witnessing elements of the mouse utopia. And of course, men will always get blamed for everything. You'll see Bill Maher, again, blaming men for everything, saying that it's because dating apps have made it so easy for men to be able to avoid the hardships of rejection, having to walk up to an actual human breathing girl and speak to her. That's the reason why this is happening. Blame the men, and the truth, and it completely ignores the fact that men are absolutely petrified of being, called a creep, having their lives destroyed. But at the same time, young women, modern women today, are very, very disrespectful. There are many instances where you'll even say hello to a woman, and if she doesn't shame you, she will just literally not respond to you and keep on walking. This is how these women are today. And young men have had it. Young men have said that, you know what, we're not going to even deal with this. When you look at the passport kings, you realize that a lot of these guys, a lot of them are in their 30s. There are some young guys who are doing the passport king thing, but a lot of these guys are in their 30s and their 40s or older. And you have to understand, a lot of these young men have decided that, they didn't go through the trials that we went through as men, where we've had to approach women, we've had to speak to women, we've actually had to, have those experiences. A lot of these guys, young guys, they've basically opted out. Like they're at this place where they're like, you know what? They don't even have that experience. So they're like, I'm not even going to do it. I'm not going to speak to anyone. I'm not going to try to look for a relationship. I'm not going to get involved. I'm just going to focus on myself. I'll go and get a job. I'll save my money and I'll have everything I need. In the video, she actually says, oh, wow, $20,000 is a lot. Like, she doesn't know that's not a lot of money. But if you notice, the calculator that this guy was using was basically showing that most young men are very poor. Most young men are very poor. But by the time you graduate from college or you finish trade school, you basically have an excess amount of money. If you don't have a girlfriend, You don't have a girlfriend, you don't have a wife, you don't have children. As a young man, and even to your 30s and 40s and sometimes 50s, you still have a lot of money. And I'll explain why. Well, let's say you're making 30, $40,000 a year as a 23-year-old, but you live at home with mom. Even if you're giving your parents, let's say, 300, $400 a month in rent. Let's say you're giving your parents around $5,000 a year in rent, right? That still leaves you, unless on a $40,000 income, and after taxes, you're left with, let's say, maybe $33,000. Let's say you give your parents $6,000 in rent, and that covers rent, utilities, internet, everything else. Well, you're still left with $27,000, young man. And think about this: once a guy has paid for his gaming PC, his gaming laptop, his equipment, his tablets, and everything else, those are one-time purchases. Those are one-time purchases. So, fast forward after a year, fast forward 1 year later, he already has his gaming PC. He already has every video game console under the sun. He doesn't need to buy meals. Mommy is preparing meals for him. Car breaks down. Daddy is changing his oil for him, assuming he has a father in his life. Daddy is changing his oil for him. Daddy is taking care of this and that for him. Mommy is still cleaning his bedroom for him. I'm just pointing it out like this. So what expenses does this man actually have? He has no expenses. He has no expenses. Or even if he lives on his own, he rents like a room, and he's happily living in that room, sleeping on the floor on a freaking sleeping bag. I legit had to do it. I should have saved the comment. Maybe I did save the comment. I have to go and look for it. And this dude legit said that he is sleeping on the floor in a sleeping bag, and he is so happy. And this cat has some bread, and this is how he's living. Like, there's a lot of dudes who sleep on the floor. Like, they sleep on the floor. They have a sleeping bag, and they are happily sleeping on the floor in a sleeping bag. And some of y'all are gonna say, "Well, I could never live like that." You know the reason why they live like that? Because they don't have anything else to deal with. Think about it very carefully. They sleep in a sleeping bag, so there's no making your bed, bro. They never have to make their bed. It's literally get out of the sleeping bag, roll up sleeping bag, bed is made in like 1 minute. Like, that's like, bro, that's literally it. Like, get out of, and that's if they even roll up the sleeping bag. Get out of sleeping bag. That's it. They, what? Go back, lay on sleeping bag. Oh my god. Oh my god. you know, guys, guys, you have a lot of dudes. I told y'all, living out of a backpack. They have a nice big backpack. They have all of their clothes in there. They have their gaming laptop in there. Maybe a tablet, their Nintendo Switch or whatever. If even that, some dudes don't even have that. They just have their gaming laptop, nice laptop, and that's it. You know, and gaming controller, and they play games on there, and they're happy, 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 happy. They have a water bottle. They have a water bottle. They live out of that water bottle, man. And it's like, this is how these men live. This is how these men live. And they don't even, like, I talked about having insurance on that stuff, on the stuff in that backpack, and a lot of these dudes refuse to pay for insurance. They're some real bastards, man. They refuse to pay for insurance. They say, this is what I've gotten. This is the feedback I've gotten when I've spoken about it. What these guys say is that they don't insure it. They basically say if they lose it, the backpack, that's just God telling them that it's time to replace things, because this is how they live. So they won't pay for insurance. A lot of these dudes are cheap. They'll just go and buy everything again, and it makes perfect sense because, think about it logically. One guy said to me he had basically $2,000 worth of stuff in there with his laptop and everything else. That was it, and that's nothing for him, because basically loses backpack. Okay, goes and replaces everything within like 5 minutes. Like, I'm being a little cynical, but it's really like that. It's really like that. Buys new laptop, buys new tablet, buys new clothes, buys new backpack, moves on. Like, this is some real nomadic hunter gatherer stuff. Like, these dudes really are living like hardcore caveman. Like, they're moving, they're just on the move. Like, you really can't hold these dudes. And of course, a lot of these dudes have their money in crypto. So no matter where they go, their money, they can access their money anywhere in the world. I have guys who literally memorize seeds. So they basically memorize. There's an out there's an a seed is basically a it's a series of words that you can memorize that will allow you to regain access to your cryptocurrency. And there are these dudes who literally just memorize the entire thing. I Some of these cats are wicked, real wicked. Like, this is how serious they live their lives. Like, and it works for them, and wherever they go, their money will follow. And people will never get access to their money because they have it stored in their brain. This is like men could be some real spiteful creatures, but it's done in a whole different way. Throw a dude in a jail cell for 10 years and he'll laugh in the jail cell because you're not going to get his money. And the truth of the matter is that, you take advantage of someone, you take away their freedoms. That definitely hurts the country, and it creates a lot of problems. When someone's constitutional rights are violated, it may seem like nothing is, oh, well, the government just violated someone's constitutional rights. Doesn't matter. They're getting away, they can do whatever they want. It does seem that way. It seems that way to all of us, but it adds up. It really adds up. And it does. And the notes are there. Okay. Like, you cannot take someone's life away just like that and act like it's nothing. You can try to, but eventually it does land on people. It always comes back. And guys, I'm telling you, these men are just walking away from Western society, walking away from relationships. You don't have a wife, a 23-year-old man that's making $50,000, $50,000 a year, living at home with his parents, or spending $66,000 a year on rent. It doesn't. He's good. He's really good. Sleeping on the floor sleeping on a sleeping bag, drinking out of a water bottle. I mean, like, eating canned foods and stuff. Do you think I'm joking? A lot of dudes live like this, and they have no problem with it. They have no problem at all. Some dudes do better, some dudes do worse. But if they don't have a wife, they don't have a girlfriend, they don't have that stress. They really just don't have that stress. And that's the situation. And a lot of young women, they're being hurt by this because they're not going to have these men as an option. These men are never going to enter the dating game. Like, a lot of these, we talk about passport kings, but a lot of these men are never going to begin dating. They're never going to date. They're never going to marry. Take this into consideration, guys. Only around 30% of men throughout history, 30 to 40% of men throughout history, actually had children, actually reproduced. So we're not even talking about marriage. We're talking about actual just reproduction. Okay. So the number of men who married is even less than that. We're just talking about reproduction. When you look at modern day society and the relationship between men and women in modern day society and the way that young men are behaving, you quickly realize that it's going to be much lower than that. We're heading towards mouse utopia. 100%. We are heading towards a mouse utopia where reproduction is going to come to a screeching halt, specifically brought on by Gen Z and Gen Alpha. I mean, the millennials, you're observing this behavior with the millennials, but it's not just the millennials. Even a lot of older Gen Xers have opted out of relationships and dating. Those guys that have been married twice, they finally learned their lesson. Or those that have been married 3 times, they're no longer with us. But a lot of these men are just like, yep. I get so many messages from guys who say, like, hey, Angry, I've never been married. I dropped out of the dating pool when I was like 17 years old, and I've never had anything to do. I make good money. I'm living the best life I can live. Like, these guys have been literally single and celibate for like 20, 30 years, and they're so happy. They are so happy. It's like they figured out what we should have figured out when we were younger. Like, the juice is not worth the squeeze. And imagine how happy their lives are. Like, they never got mixed up in the nonsense. And maybe some of these guys are not entirely celibate. Like, for example, they go over to TJ, go to Hong Kong. Hong Kong is a gentleman's club in Tijuana. For those of you that don't know, it's legendary. But there are also a bunch of other places over there. And in Tijuana, it's actually legal uh, it's actually legal to be intimate with a lady of the night in exchange for financial financial contributions. So it's actually legal over there. And a lot of dudes go over to TJ, they have some fun, Tijuana, and then they come back. And that's really just the reality of it. You know, some of these guys, maybe they travel outside of the US, go over to Thailand, have some fun in Thailand, but they're not messing around in the US. They're not messing around with Western women. And then a lot of these women, hands down, a lot of these men, hands down, they're just not having relationships at all. They're not getting intimate with any women. They're basically avoiding physical intimacy entirely, and have just been living happy monk-free lives. Guys, if you're enjoying this content, help get this channel to 100,000 subscribers by subscribing to the channel if you already haven't, liking the video, and turning on notifications to never miss another video ever again. Men are hurting women by avoiding them. What do you think about this statement and everything we've discussed here today? I want to know your thoughts, so let's talk about it in the comments. Like the video if you like it. Don't forget to subscribe. And if you like the video, share the video. And just remember that all roads lead to MWA, men walking away. And cheers.